Be me, 34, operations manager. Finally got promoted 6 months ago after years of watching less qualified men climb the ladder. Decided it was time to make some real changes around here. The company had been a boys' club for too long. First week in the new role, I pulled the demographic data. 72% male workforce. Leadership was even worse. Knew exactly what needed to happen. Spent 3 weeks drafting a comprehensive equity initiative. Presented it to the executive team with full statistical backing. They approved it, probably because they were worried about optics. The plan was simple and fair. New hiring quotas to reach 50-50 gender balance within 18 months. Mandatory re-evaluation of all current employees using updated criteria. Priority promotion tracks for underrepresented groups. Felt proud, like I was finally doing something that mattered. Started implementing immediately. Called a department-wide meeting to announce the changes. You could feel the tension in the room. Most of the men were silent. A few women looked uncomfortable too. Whatever. Change is always uncomfortable. After the meeting, 3 of the senior developers asked to speak with me. Alvin, Manuel, and Tom. All been with the company 4 to 6 years. Solid performers, I'll admit. They sat down in my office looking serious. Alvin spoke first. We want to understand the new promotion criteria. How exactly will performance be weighted against demographic factors? I explained that we were looking at holistic value, not just metrics. It's about creating balance and recognizing different types of contributions. Tom leaned forward. Can you define what you mean by different types of contributions? Our current metrics are objective: project completion rates, client satisfaction scores, billable hours, code quality reviews. Those metrics historically favor certain working styles, I said. We need to value collaboration, emotional intelligence, mentorship. Manuel jumped in. We already track mentorship through our junior developer program. I've mentored 8 people in 3 years. Tom has mentored 6. How would that change under the new system? It's not just about numbers, I tried to explain. It's about who's been given opportunities and who hasn't. Alvin wouldn't let it go. But you just said we need to value mentorship. We have numbers on that. What makes those numbers different from our performance numbers? Could feel myself getting frustrated. Look, the old system benefited certain people. We're correcting for historical inequities. Which historical inequities at this company specifically? Tom asked. The company was founded 12 years ago. Do you have data on promotion rates by gender over that time? Didn't have it in front of me. It's well documented industry-wide. Tech has a diversity problem. Industry-wide, sure, Manuel said. But you're implementing this policy here. What data from your company justifies it? The 72% male workforce speaks for itself. Alvin shook his head. That's current composition, not evidence of discriminatory promotion practices. Do you know what percentage of our applicants are male versus female? What if we're hiring proportionally to our application pool? Women don't apply because they don't feel welcome, I countered. That's the culture we're changing. Have you surveyed the women here about whether they feel unwelcome? Tom asked. Because I know Sarah and Jennifer pretty well, and they've never mentioned it. Not everyone feels comfortable being honest about these things, I said. Manuel looked genuinely confused. So you're saying you know better than they do about whether they feel unwelcome? This was going in circles. The policy is approved. I'm happy to clarify implementation details, but the decision is made. They exchanged looks. Alvin stood up. We'd like to request documentation on how our current performance will be weighted in future promotion decisions. I'll have HR send over the framework. They left. Felt exhausted. Why did everything have to be a debate? Next few weeks were tense. Rolled out mandatory unconscious bias training. Attendance was required, scheduled it during work hours. Hired an outside consultant, Rachel, who specialized in workplace equity. The training session was a disaster. Rachel had everyone do implicit association tests, then broke us into groups to discuss our results. Put together mixed groups intentionally. In my group were Alvin, 2 junior developers named Katie and Stephen, and Priya from accounting. Rachel gave us a scenario. A woman and man both apply for a senior role, identical qualifications. Who gets more scrutiny in the interview process? Rachel asked. Probably the woman, I said. Research shows women are asked more questions about their commitment and future plans. Alvin raised his hand. Is that controlling for career gaps? Because questions about commitment might correlate with resume gaps, which are more common for women due to childcare. Rachel nodded. That's part of the bias. Women are penalized for caregiving responsibilities. Right, but that's not what you asked, Alvin said. You asked who gets more scrutiny. If someone has a 3-year gap on their resume, isn't it reasonable to ask about it regardless of gender? The gap exists because of systemic issues, I explained. Asking about it perpetuates the penalty. So we shouldn't ask about gaps in employment history? Stephen asked. That seems like pretty basic due diligence for any hire. Katie spoke up quietly. I took 2 years off to care for my mum. I'd want an employer to ask me about it so I could explain I was doing something important, not just, I don't know, sitting around. Felt betrayed. The point is that women are more likely to have those gaps and therefore more likely to face those questions. But if someone has a gap, shouldn't we ask? Priya said. Man or woman? How else do we evaluate their current readiness? Alvin again. It sounds like you want us to notice patterns but not act on information. If we see a gap and don't ask about it for a female candidate, but do ask for a male candidate, isn't that actually gender-based discrimination? Rachel tried to redirect. Let's focus on the broader patterns of bias. But the damage was done. Could see people thinking through the contradictions. The rest of the session was people poking holes in every scenario. Walked out feeling like Rachel had completely lost control. Paid her $8,000 for that. The next week, the first resignation letter came. Manuel, 2 weeks notice, professional, brief. Accepted a position at a competitor. Called him in. Is this about the new policies? He was diplomatic. I got a good offer. Better title, better pay. We could counter-offer. I don't think you can match it. Try me. He named a figure, 20% above his current salary. I knew we couldn't do it, not with the budget already allocated to new diversity hiring. That's quite a jump. What's the role? Senior Solutions Architect. I'd be leading the infrastructure team. Felt my chest tighten. You know we're developing a pathway for senior promotions here. With the new framework, you'd be eligible within the year. Eligible doesn't mean guaranteed, he said. And from what I understand of the new framework, demographic factors will play a role in who gets promoted. We're looking at whole person contributions. Right, and I'm a white guy in tech. I can do the math. That stung. Your race and gender don't disqualify you. They don't prioritize me either. The other company is promoting me based on my work. Here, my work is one factor among many. I'll take the sure thing. Tried another angle. Don't you think you have a responsibility to be part of the change? To help create a more inclusive environment? He actually laughed. My responsibility is to my career and my family. I have a mortgage. I'm not taking a hit to my professional development to be your diversity prop. That's not what I meant. Isn't it though? You want me to stay in a system where I'll be passed over for promotions so you can hit demographic targets. You're asking me to sacrifice for a problem I didn't create. The problem exists whether you created it or not. Fine, but it's not my job to fix it at my own expense. That's what you're not getting. You're asking one group to pay the cost for historical imbalances, and you're surprised when they say no. He left. I approved the resignation with HR. 2 days later, Alvin came in. Same thing. Different company, senior role, more money. Didn't even try the counteroffer this time. So you're just abandoning ship. I'm taking a better opportunity. Right when we're trying to make meaningful change. He sat down, uninvited. Can I be honest with you? Please. You're not making meaningful change. You're implementing quotas that punish people for demographics they can't control. You know what meaningful change would be? Didn't answer. Fixing the pipeline. Working with universities to get more women into CS programs. Creating mentorship programs that actually develop junior talent regardless of gender. Offering flexible work arrangements that help people with caregiving responsibilities. You know, things that address actual barriers. We don't have the budget for... You have budget for hiring consultants and implementing new HR frameworks. You have budget to potentially counter my salary. You could invest that in real development programs. Those are long-term solutions. Right, and quotas are short-term feel-good measures that don't address root causes. You're just shuffling around who gets opportunities without creating new ones. Felt my face getting hot. Easy for you to say when you've always had opportunities. Have I though? I worked my ass off. I spent nights and weekends learning new frameworks. I took on the projects no one wanted because they were high risk. I delivered results. And now you're telling me that matters less than what's between my legs. That's a gross oversimplification. Is it? Explain to me how the new promotion framework works then. Walk me through it. Pulled up the document. We evaluate on 5 pillars: technical competency, leadership potential, collaborative impact, organizational values alignment, and equity contribution. Define equity contribution. How someone has helped advance inclusive practices and supported underrepresented colleagues. So someone gets promotion points for their demographic status or for supporting people of certain demographics. For creating an inclusive environment. Which in practice means what? Was reading directly from the framework now. Demonstrating awareness of systemic barriers, actively working to dismantle exclusive practices, amplifying marginalized voices. And who decides if someone has successfully amplified marginalized voices? The review committee, which you chair. Yes. And is the review committee subject to diversity quotas? Paused. We're working to ensure diverse representation. So let me get this straight. You've created a system where promotion depends partly on supporting underrepresented groups and the committee deciding this is selected based on representation quotas and you chair it. You've built a machine that rewards people for agreeing with you. That's not, it's about values alignment. With your values. What happens to someone who thinks the best way to help women in tech is through pipeline programs instead of quotas? Do they demonstrate organizational values alignment? Didn't have an answer for that. That's what I thought, Alvin said. You've created an ideological purity test and called it equity. He stood up. I'm not sticking around to watch this play out. Good luck with your initiatives. Submitted his resignation letter that afternoon. Tom lasted another week. Didn't even come talk to me. Just sent the letter through HR. 3 senior developers gone in 3 weeks. All men. All high performers. The executive team called me in. CEO Daniel, CFO Patricia, and COO Alan. Daniel spoke first. We're concerned about the sudden departures from the development team. They received better offers elsewhere. The market is competitive. Patricia had a printout. All 3 cited the new equity framework in their exit interviews. They felt their career progression was being limited. They left because they couldn't handle not being automatically prioritized anymore. Alan leaned back. That's an interesting characterization. Do you have evidence they were being automatically prioritized before? Here we go again. The demographic composition of leadership speaks for itself. We promoted based on performance reviews and project outcomes, Daniel said. Do you have evidence those criteria were applied discriminatorily? The outcomes were discriminatory. Patricia looked at her notes. Over the last 5 years, we've promoted 11 people to senior roles, 7 men, 4 women. Our employee base during that time was approximately 70% male. If we're promoting from our existing workforce, that's actually slightly favorable to women proportionally. Felt blindsided. That doesn't account for who had access to high visibility projects. You're right, Alan said. So I pulled that data too. Project assignments are done through a quarterly selection process where people bid on projects based on interest and capacity. Assignments are made by project managers based on skills and availability. Do you have evidence that process was biased? Informal networks favor men. Then let's formalize the process, Daniel said. Make project bidding fully transparent, create clear criteria for selection. That would address your concern without quotas. It's not enough. Patricia jumped in. Why not? If we can demonstrate fair processes and equal access, why do we need quotas? Because fair processes in a biased system still produce biased outcomes. But you haven't demonstrated the system is biased, Alan said. You've shown us disparate outcomes and assumed bias. When we look at the actual mechanisms, promotion rates relative to population, project assignment processes, we don't see discrimination. Absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence. Daniel rubbed his temples. Okay, let's approach this differently. What's your goal? 50-50 gender balance in leadership within 18 months. Why that number? Patricia asked. Because that represents actual equity. Does it though? She said. If our applicant pool is 30% women and we hire proportionally and promote proportionally, we'd end up around 30% women in leadership. Why is that inequitable? Because women are 50% of the population. But not 50% of computer science graduates, Alan said. Not 50% of people with 5+ years of experience in our specific tech stack. You're setting a target disconnected from the available talent pool. Then we need to hire women who can learn. Daniel sat forward. We tried that with the junior developer program 2 years ago. We recruited heavily from boot camps and non-traditional backgrounds to get more women. Know what happened? Waited. Retention was terrible. Not because of discrimination. We tracked it carefully. Because people without CS fundamentals struggled in a fast-paced environment. We set them up to fail by prioritizing demographics over preparation. Maybe the environment was the problem. We had mentorship, we had resources, we had patient senior devs working with them. What we didn't have was time to teach 4 years of CS curriculum on the job. Patricia pulled out another sheet. Here's the financial impact. We've lost 3 senior developers, making an average of $140,000. Replacing them at market rate will cost $160,000 each, plus recruiting fees, plus the productivity loss during transition. That's roughly $600,000 in total cost. Sometimes, cost is the price of progress. Is it progress? Alan asked. We've lost 3 qualified people and haven't hired anyone to replace them yet. We're down 3 positions. How's that progress? We'll hire more diverse replacements. From where? Daniel said. The same talent pool everyone's fishing in? We'll be competing with companies that don't have quotas. Why would a talented developer choose us? Because we offer an inclusive environment. We offered those 3 guys an environment where their work mattered, where they could grow based on merit. They left because we stopped offering that. Felt cornered. So you're saying we shouldn't try to fix the gender imbalance? I'm saying your method isn't working, Daniel said. It's costing us talent and money, and it hasn't resulted in a single new hire yet. We've only been implementing for 6 weeks. Patricia looked grim. 6 weeks and 3 resignations. At this rate, we'll lose our entire senior development team before we hire anyone. Then maybe they weren't that committed to the company. Silence. Alan broke it. Or maybe we're asking them to accept career limitations for a social goal they didn't sign up for. These guys came here to build software and advance their careers. We changed the rules on them. The rules were always unfair. Show me how, Daniel said. Show me specifically where we discriminated. Not industry trends, not national statistics. Show me where this company treated people unfairly. Couldn't. Patricia stood up. We're putting the equity initiative on hold pending review. We need to assess actual barriers in our systems before implementing quotas. You'll work with HR to identify specific, demonstrable issues we can address. You're killing the program because 3 men complained. We're pausing the program because it's causing measurable harm without measurable benefits, Daniel said. Walked out before they could see me cry. Next Monday, found out Katie had put in her notice too. Katie, one of the women I was trying to help. Went to her desk. Can we talk? She looked uncomfortable, but agreed. In the conference room, I asked why she was leaving. I got a good opportunity at a startup. Is this about the equity program? She hesitated. You can be honest. Okay, yeah, partially. I don't want to be someone's diversity hire. I want to be hired because I'm good at what I do. You are good. Right, but under the new system, people will always wonder. They'll look at me and think I got promoted because I'm a woman, not because I earned it. That's their bias, not reality. It's reality if the system explicitly factors in my gender. You've made it impossible for me to prove I earned anything on merit alone. Felt like I'd been slapped. Tom mentored me, she continued. He spent hours helping me understand distributed systems. He gave me real feedback, challenged me when I was wrong, celebrated when I got it right. He treated me like a developer, not like a woman in tech who needed special handling. I'm not saying women need special handling. Aren't you though? The whole program is based on the idea that we can't compete on equal footing, that we need extra support, different criteria, demographic consideration. That's special handling. It's addressing barriers. What barriers have I faced here? Specifically. Thought about it. Implicit bias, fewer role models, being the only woman in meetings sometimes. Alvin invited me to every architecture review. Manuel included me in the senior dev discussions even though I'm junior. Tom made sure I got credit for my contributions. Where was I held back? Not everything is visible. So you're going to protect me from invisible barriers by making me visibly different, by making sure everyone knows I was promoted partly because of my gender? It's not the only factor, but it's a factor, and that's enough to taint everything. I'd rather work somewhere that just judges my code. She left. I sat in that conference room for an hour. The next week, HR started the review Patricia mentioned, went through 5 years of promotion decisions, interviewed employees about project assignments, surveyed everyone about workplace climate. Results came back. No evidence of systematic discrimination in promotions. Project assignments were largely self-directed with fair approval rates. Satisfaction scores were consistent across demographics. Women reported feeling respected and valued at rates comparable to men. Daniel called me in alone this time. The data doesn't support the initiative. We're officially discontinuing it. Data can't capture everything. You keep saying that, but at some point you have to accept what the evidence shows. We don't have a discrimination problem, we have a pipeline problem. Women are underrepresented in our field, but that's not something we created or can fix with quotas. So we do nothing. We do smart things. We're implementing transparent project assignments. We're creating formal mentorship structures. We're offering flexible work options. We're partnering with women in tech organizations for recruiting. We're addressing actual barriers, not imaginary ones. Felt defeated. I thought I was making a difference. You were making yourself feel like you were making a difference. There's a difference. That landed hard. Those 3 developers you lost, they were actually doing the work, mentoring junior devs, creating opportunities, treating people as individuals. You dismissed all that because it didn't fit your narrative. I was trying to fix systemic issues by creating new ones. You can't fix bias with different bias. You can't fix discrimination with different discrimination. You just shuffle around who gets hurt. Didn't have a response. I'm reassigning the diversity portfolio to HR. You'll focus on operations. Walked out. 6 weeks of work, gone. 4 good employees, gone. My credibility, gone. Sitting here now, 3 months later, the company is actually doing better. Hired 2 women developers through the Women in Tech partnership. Both are qualified, both are thriving. Nobody questions if they earned their spots. Alvin's replacement is a woman named Sarah. She's excellent. Got promoted on merit within 2 months. Everyone respects her. Tom and Manuel both reached out to Katie, helped her get connected at their new companies. She ended up somewhere great. And me? I'm the cautionary tale. The manager who tried to force equality and drove away talent instead. The one who confused intentions with outcomes. Who thought having the right opinions mattered more than getting things right? Alvin was right about one thing. I built a machine that rewarded people for agreeing with me. And when people disagreed, I assumed they were wrong, biased, privileged, never considered I might be the one who was wrong. Still believe there are real issues in tech. Still think we need more diversity. But I learnt the hard way that good intentions aren't enough. That you have to actually solve real problems, not the ones you imagine. That you have to treat people as individuals, not demographics. That forcing outcomes doesn't create fairness. The worst part? I genuinely thought I was the hero of this story. Thought I was fighting the good fight. Took me losing good people and failing completely. To realize I was just another kind of problem. Sometimes I wonder if I reached out to Alvin or Tom or Manuel. Would they even take my call? Probably not. Can't blame them, still. Here, doing operations work, keeping my head down. Watching Sarah succeed and knowing she's doing what I couldn't. Making actual progress while I was busy making noise. Funny how that works.